Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente. Good to be with you again tonight. We have a lot to talk about here on Astrology Unplugged. Um, there's a lot going on, and I think we need to do some shows on explaining what the current planets are doing. That's on my mind. I also want to do this. I don't know how you want to put it, but I want to bring your charts up to date. I just feel like you're kind of the regulars. You YouTubers are welcome, but us folks here that the Brady Bunch here, that we're always here. I think I got to keep an eye on you, just to let you know what's happening in your charts. There are many subjects, but the big subject, and you're going to hear, and you're going to hear so much about this. I want to clarify it before it happens. Is at the end of March, we got Pluto going into another sign. Pluto is going to go out of Capricorn after 15 years into Aquarius. And everybody's going to say it's the age of Aquarius. And it isn't. So that's what I want to get clear tonight. Pluto going into a sign has got nothing to do with what age it is. Okay? They're going to both be Aquarius, but I'm going to try to explain that to you tonight. And if I get off track, I got a native Aquarian right here with me to put me back on track. Okay, so around the end of March, we've been dealing. Let me show you on the screen. I'm using a different kind of wheel. Tonight I'm using a different wheel so you can see the signs of the zodiac. I don't like this wheel, but I like this wheel for this topic. You can see the houses and you can see the signs. You can see the houses, you can see the signs. And that's what's good. And I like to just show the houses and the signs are inferred. But this type of wheel is usually really good for beginners or intermediates because they don't have as easy of a time seeing everything. So tonight we're going to focus a lot on the signs. So as you see, in 2008, Pluto entered Capricorn, and it's been spending all this time, and it's just at the very end. And the natal the natal Pluto in the United States chart, the natal Pluto in the U.S. chart is 28 degrees. So here we see Pluto sitting on the natal Pluto. So we're having, once again, we're having a Pluto return in the United States chart. So in the end of March, Pluto is going to cross into Aquarius. It's going to send shock waves anytime it changes signs. It's going to shock all four fixed signs: Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio. Then it's going to go back into Capricorn. It's going to wrap up, and then it's going to come back out. And what's intriguing about that, I read this with Arroyo, and he's exactly right. When a planet leaves a sign, it's the opposite of when it goes into a sign. It's called the ingress. I don't know what's called when it leaves one, but it's called the anaretic degrees. The anaretic degrees are the final degrees of a sign or the beginning of a next sign. But when Pluto changes signs, it's going to send shock waves. It's going to send Aquarian waves. And as we saw with Pluto going into Capricorn, okay, egress. Thank you. That's very good, Elke. It's called egress. Oh, that's nice to know. Now, wind back to 2005. Eliza and I just met. We're writing an article for a local Pittsburgh paper of what it's going to be like with Pluto going into Capricorn. 3 years ahead of time. We're writing and predicting what it's going to be like in 08. And everything, a single thing we said was true. And it shocked us, even watching it, even expecting it, talking about the decay of of things held up by pillars, talking about the corruption, talking about the institutions falling apart, talking about the very existence of the United States. We had to whisper those things in those days. People wanted to kill us. We found out we're exactly right. So not only did we find out we were right, but as Pluto went in 08, you saw the big collapse financially in 07 before it even got there. But as we got to 09, 10, 11, then you started to see it in the people. It shocked us. We knew it was coming. We had no idea it's coming that fast. And as it went into Capricorn, you started to hear the bills came due. Because from 1995 through 2008, Pluto was going through Sag, and there was a general Sagittarian feeling, a general flippancy. And that's why you saw during those years, mortgage, get another mortgage, buy another Winnebago, buy 3 Winnebagos, just charge it. Don't worry about it. What'd you get in the mail? Every day. What did you get in the mail all day long? Every day. Credit card. Thousands of them, remember? And then when it went into Capricorn, we knew the bills were coming due. And boy, did they come due. Not that any sign is mean. Signs have natures. So we're getting ready for this 15-year period to come to an end and start picking up on the Aquarius. Now, when we get to March and on into the year, you're going to start hearing astrologers everywhere talking about the Pluto in Aquarius time. I'm purposely not using the word age. And we're going to be talking about what to expect, and we'll plug into Liza, see what she's thinking comes, because Liza's a very big sci-fi reader, and it's very Aquarian to know to keep ahead of everybody else. They're ahead of the pack mentally. They have minds that work at that level. So tonight is to explain to you what the ages mean versus Pluto going into a sign. And I do have here a really interesting piece of paper I wrote down tonight, which is really intriguing. See what this does to your mind, okay? See what this flashes in your mind. Pluto stays anywhere from 13 years in a sign to 30. Because it's on this big elliptical orbit. So it spends a long time in some signs and short periods in others. So I wrote down generally within a year, what year did Pluto change signs? And usually within a year or 2 years, you start to see it in the collective mind. So we go back to 1779, right after the birth of this country, Pluto went into Aquarius, which is what it's doing now. It's intriguing to think of these years. 1799, it went into not the age of Pisces, went into the sign of Pisces. 1824, big deal, went into a whole new zodiac, went into Aries. So see if these years trigger anything in your mind associated with this sign's nature. 1854, just before the Civil War, Pluto entered Taurus. So you saw Taurus the next 20 years. The foundation. 1885 went into Gemini. 1915. Talk about a big deal. They thought that was the war that would end all wars, World War I. That was when it went into the sign of Cancer. That must have been a hellacious time. 1939, this is the birth of the baby boomers. Pluto went into Leo. Mick Jagger stuck his tongue out. That's the symbol of the baby boomers, is that red tongue sticking out for the Rolling Stones. And that's exactly why in 1957, that generation didn't like it. Sean Hayes here, whoever that is. Come on in, Sean. Interesting. It was interesting for me to watch the 1957 people grow up. They were the Pluto and Virgos. But I tell you, I really remember clearly. It's when I first got my astrology chart done, 1971, 72, Pluto went into Libra. You'll notice when the big planets go into the cardinal signs, that's when the big shakeup happens. Astrology is about the 4 cardinal signs. They're primary. Everything else is somewhat secondary. 72, look what happened. And in 65, you had Uranus and Pluto together. 72, the whole world changed. But in 72, we got Mr. Nixon. Oh, boy. Look at that. Was that prophetic or what? Whoever wrote 1984, was that Wells?
No, that was George Orwell.
Orwell. 1984, Pluto went into Scorpio. Big brother. 1995, Windows came out. Everybody's lined up around the block to get their Windows because we're all going to play on a computer and talk to each other. It's going to be a Sagittarian time and we're all going to play, and there are no repercussions. 2008 came along. Pluto went in Capricorn and ended that. Okay. So we see that this coming March is going to go into Aquarius for a little while, come back out, and then go back in. Now, what I was trying to say earlier is when a planet goes into a sign, comes back out, and makes its final ingress, it makes its final. It's like the guy at the edge of the stage. You think he's off stage, and he pulls the curtain back over, and he gives you 2 more lines. That's the summary of it. So we're going to expect big time Pluto and Capricorn stuff to hit us as Pluto re-enters Aquarius for a second time. Now, we're going to be talking about what it's like when Pluto goes into Aquarius and then spends its next 20 years in Aquarius. And then you'll start to see, just like always, about 5 years into it, you'll start to see the collective is going to start talking about Aquarian type things. And this is what we're looking for. We're looking for 2 things here. When it goes into Aquarius, then you're going to start to see people trying to work together as brothers and sisters. And that's what we're really looking for. And it's not going to happen overnight. Okay, the second thing, and I'm just going to come out and say it because I don't care. I'm seeing it everywhere. I think the UFOs are going to become commonplace. I think they're going to let us know that they've been watching, that they're really worried about us, and they're going to be, what's the D word? Disclosed. They're going to disclose themselves. And I think they know we need it. We need them. And God knows if they don't come, what are we going to do? Because we're sure not panicking and fixing the environment. Something's got to happen. So I do think that's going to happen. And that's a hell of a thing to say because I don't usually do predictions. All right. But we have to talk about the ages. The age of Aquarius. That damn song caused us so many problems in 1967. It is not the age of Aquarius. It was not the age of Aquarius, except for in that song. And the words they use when the moon is in the 7th house. The moon is in the 7th house 2 hours every day. every day. And Jupiter aligns with Mars. Do they mean opposite? Do they mean square? What do they mean by align? Well, Jupiter and Mars align about every 13 years. So it wasn't that special. Then peace will guide the planets. These are the words. Jupiter and Mars have to do with war, not have to do with peace. And love will guide the planets, etc. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And it's a really pretty song, pretty voices. But what it did is it made people think that we're entering or we're in the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is very near right now, but we don't know when. It's not an easy thing to discern. It could have been several years ago. It could be right now. My readings have made me feel that it's coming around 2025. It's not a crisp date. It's a general period shift because the age lasts for over 2,000 years. So it doesn't have a crisp cusp. Try saying that. Crisp cusp. Okay. So we don't know. There are many theories, but it's around now. Okay, but it's got nothing to do with Pluto going into Aquarius. Okay, how do the ages work? The age of Taurus was about 4,000 BC until about 2,000 BC. Notice the people in the world were very Taurian. From the year 2000 BC until 0 around then, it backed up, the ages go backward because of the precession of the equinoxes, which is what we're going to talk about, the precession of the equinoxes, which I've been carefully avoiding for a long time because it's very hard to explain. It goes backward, the ages, and the age of Taurus went into Aries about 2000 BC, and it came into a whole new zodiac backwards around the year 0. Jesus. We've been in the age of, we backed out of Aries. Now we're in the age of Pisces. We're going backward into a new zodiac in the age 0. And the age of Pisces has been 0 through 2000. Okay? Why do the ages go backward? Because I'm going to explain that in just a minute. So until the year 2000, we're in the age of Pisces. I'm sorry, let me get this right. In the age of 2000, we've been in the age of Pisces since Christ. And we went into the age of Pisces when Christ came, and you got the symbol of 2 fish. So what should have hit the planet for those 2,000 years was a mentality of loving your neighbor. Well, we didn't do real good at it. We did in some ways. So around 2000, 2025, we back up into the age of Aquarius. And we'll be in the age of Aquarius until 2400. Okay? That's how it works. So when the Earth rotates, the Earth has a 23.5 degree. I mean, I tried real hard to find you a video, and every video I did on the precession of the equinox was so confusing, I felt like I just couldn't do it. Here's how the precession works. The Earth is tilted, always 23.5 degrees. It's always tilted. This gives us the seasons. And it goes around the sun, and the tilt sometimes tilting towards the sun in the summer, sometimes tilting away in the winter. That's for us northern people, northern hemisphere. But at the same time that the axis is pointing at 23.5 degrees, it's wobbling. Okay, just like a top. When you spin a top wobbles, but it keeps going perfectly, beautifully, but it wobbles. Now, in the year zero, around zero, if you were to draw a line from that wobble, yes. Is that the image I put on my Facebook message? Largely, but don't get confused by that. Largely, yes. I would suggest that you try going to YouTube and putting in animation of the precession of the equinoxes, and you will see diagrams how this works. Now, in the year zero, when that wobble was going on, the actual axis was pointing to the North Star, and it was pointing to zero Aries. 2,000 years later, springtime, the point is now pointing to the end of Aquarius. We're backing up into Aquarius because that little wobble, if you study that wobble, which goes on for 26,000 years, if you study that wobble forms a cone. And that cone takes a chunk out of all the 12 signs, and it gives you about 10,025 years per sign. So the actual point of in the year zero, Polaris was right above us. In the year 2000, Polaris is not above us. The central point keeps changing because we're rotating backwards. We're rotating backwards through the 12 signs. So in the year, let's take 12,500 years divided in half, because that's one revolution. So let's look at the year 6,500. In the year 6,500, it will be pointing towards summer, and when we're pointing at spring. The two zodiacs, the sidereal zodiac and the tropical zodiac, which people use as an argument against us, are two completely different things. In the year zero, when you drew a line right through the earth, right through the sun, you intersected zero Aries. In the time of Christ, you drew a line from the earth through the sun, and it intersected all that, the constellation belt out there. It intersected exactly where Aries is. This year, when you draw a line through it, you get the final degrees of the first degrees of Pisces, because it's been backing up that point. That's backing up. It's been backing up since 30 Pisces back to about 1 Pisces, which is where it is now, because it's going to come out of the 1 Pisces to 0 Pisces and go into Aquarius. So every year at springtime, astrologers call it a 0 Aries. We cheat. We shift the zodiac. Our zodiac is based upon a mythical point called 0 Aries, and it's got nothing to do, get that our zodiac's got nothing to do with the constellations. I'll give you a few minutes on that one. In the year 0, they both matched. Every 2,000 years, they're off by 1 sign. Every 2,000 years, they get off by 1 sign. So after 2,000 years of going through the age of Aquarius, we're going to go through the age of, let's see if I'm right here. Is this right? After 2,000 years, we've been in the age of Pisces, right? Oh, we're going to go into the age of Capricorn. Okay, but it's not Pluto in Capricorn.
We're going to go into the age of Aquarius.
After Aquarius, we're going to back up into the
Right.
age of Capricorn. Okay, which is about 2,000 plus to 4,000 plus. That's not where Pluto is. Remember, Pluto is just a planet going around zodiac. It's got nothing to do with the ages. Okay, so when Jesus was born, you drew a line through the earth, through the sun, and you intersected 0 Aries. When you did astrology at that time, same thing. 2,000 years later, astronomers see the sun is lined up with the first degree of Pisces, while astrologers always cheat and we always line up 0 degrees Aries with springtime. Our astrology is lined up and based on the moment of spring, when night and day are equal. So when you say you're a Libra, all you're saying, say you're born 0 Libra, all you're saying is you're born 6 months after 0 Aries. Has nothing to do with the date. I don't care if it's year 45,000, 0 Aries will always be on the date when the day and night are equal. It'll always be around March 20th. While the astronomers, they're backing up all the time, and that's one of the arguments they used with us. Well, hell, they're not even in sync with the real zodiac. It's because there's 2 zodiacs. So we back up through the ages. We go through 2,000 years at a time into the next sign. Sometime around now, we've been coming out of the age. We have been in the age of Pisces since Christ. We're just about out of it now. We're back at 1 degree, 0 degrees. We're going to back into Aquarius and Marcia. That's why the ages go backward. So we're going to back into the age of Aquarius for 2,050 years, anytime by around now. And as we do that, that spring point is just going to get more and more out of whack. Then in the year 26,000, they'll line up again. In the year 12,050, they're going to be opposite. We're going to be seeing 0 Aries while they see 0 Libra. It's because of the wobble of the cone of the top of the path that the northern pole points to as it travels backward through the zodiac. You don't have to have this understood ironclad, but you need to understand that that's what the age is. People are writing to me and I just don't have the time to read it. I'm sorry. So then when we talk about the age of Aquarius, it's coming. It might even be here, but it has nothing whatsoever to do with where Pluto is. Pluto has been going around. Pluto goes around about every 250 years. And it's been, we saw how it entered around 1770. It entered Aquarius, and now it's 250 years later. It's going into Aquarius again. So when you talk about the age, you're talking about the broad scale whole solar system moving. Versus where's Pluto going to be? Now, the fact that Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008, and it's brought us with it, which means it's brought a lot of depression, it's brought a lot of sadness, it's brought a lot of hardship, it's brought a lot of finding corruption. But at the same time, what it's done has been very good, because these planets don't mean good or bad. It's what we do with them. And what's good about the age of Capricorn, not the age of Capricorn, but Pluto's path through Capricorn, is we've learned that we got to fix things. Things don't work, we got to fix it. I told you all along, what does a Capricorn do? It makes sure things work. Things have not been working. Does your Social Security work? No. Does your water work? No. Does your plumbing work? No. Does your army work? No. Does your church work? No. I mean, in a lot of ways, we see that we have based our building of things upon soil which was not sturdy. That's what Pluto has shown us. So now as we go, we improve, and Pluto moves now into Aquarius, it's no longer time to just point at structural problems. Aquarius is about coming together, holding hands, doing it together, and fixing it. It's not fixing it like Virgo fixing it. It's not making sure like Capricorn is. But it is all about addressing the problem as a group instead of addressing it as individuals. This is why we have so much trouble in the country, frankly, is because we're Cancerian, and Cancerian entities address problems as individuals. How's it going to affect me? That's Americanism. That's Cancerism. That's what our problem is. How are we going to fix something that's affecting me? Instead of, when Pluto went through Capricorn, it's changed our tune. We've seen that it's not just we've seen that it's affecting all of us. So give it some time as Pluto goes into Aquarius. Give it some time. It'll take a little time to get into the psyche. You'll start to see the spirit. You can already see it happening. You can see these grassroots campaigns coming up. You can see people wanting to work together. You can see this beautiful sense of, I want to buy the world a Coke and keep it in perfect harmony. That's a very Aquarian message. So that's what's really good. And that's what we have to look forward to. And that's what you're going to start seeing at the end of March. When Pluto goes into Aquarius, it's first of all, you get when a planet like Pluto changes signs, you got to get over the shock waves. And there's going to be shock waves for several months. Over an early Leo, over an early Taurus, over an early Aquarius, over an early Scorpio. People with planets in those four sectors are going to be waking up from their slumber, just like 2008 did to us. Okay, now, one of the things you need to know is there's not a lot of difference between the sign Capricorn and the sign of Aquarius when you compare it to the other 12 cusps. I told you tonight's discussion is about the 12 cusps. Not an easy thing to talk about. In other words, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Clearly, in the old days, Aquarius was ruled by Saturn until the 1700s, 1770 something, when we discovered a new planet, Uranus. Then we found out, boy, it's very Uranian, but we also found out, just like Aquarius is, it's got a double nature. Sometimes Aquarians are very Saturnian. Sometimes they're very Uranian. Sometimes they're both. Don't ever try to predict an Aquarian. Don't ever try to predict Uranus. It's just not predictable. Now, so as Pluto goes in to Aquarius, and its nature is somewhat alike Capricorn, you're going to get less contrast that you're going to get with the other signs. Like when it goes Aries into Taurus, Taurus into Gemini, they're really distinct changes. That's what tonight's talk is about. So there's going to be a little while where we're going to think that the astrologers aren't doing very well as we get into Aquarius, because it's going to feel very much the same. What's Capricorn? Capricorn are the structures and the rules that you run a society by. What's Aquarius? Aquarius is the collective of people that are working together to run a society. So they're very similar in terms of being social. It's not until you get to Pisces that you get into a real spiritual evaluation. Aquarius, however, is very idealistic. You look at the Aquarians around you, including Miss Liza. These people are very idealistic. Some of them are really off the wall because they're so idealistic that it's just really hard to mix them with everybody else. Because when you're real idealistic, you get so cerebral, you get very far from the earth. Not always. And that's where Aquarians pick up this unfair reputation of being weird, and this unfair reputation of being they don't fit in, they don't belong here. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes Aquarians are just so far out and so whacked out that you wonder. Now, if you go back, and I've often said since writing this book, I've often said there needs to be a book, and I don't think it's ever been written. There needs to be a book about the Aries-Taurus cusp, and the Taurus-Gemini cusp, and the Gemini-Cancer cusp. Let's talk about that for a minute. First of all, most people, when they use the word cusp, they use it incorrectly. A cusp is a division line between this and that. We have found with the signs of the zodiac, which is why we use a sharply cut diamond, that the signs are black and white. One day you're Aries, 1 minute later, you're Taurus. There's no blending there. There's no cusp. The signs are sharply defined, all the signs. But I have found that lady at Astrology continues to confuse you. I have found that there's good reason to believe that that cusp on October 24th, that cusp between late Libra and early Scorpio, it seems to me that it's a little bit cuspy. I have found people, whatever side they're on, they kind of pick up characters of the other. And you got to watch this stuff for a long time before you can make such an evaluation. And the reason I've found is Libra's so mild compared to how intense Scorpio is. And if you haven't noticed by now, start noticing how many major events happened October 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. The last 10 days of October. Start noticing how many people go to jail, how many people get shot, how many really, the Bay of Pigs, how many intense situations happen as we leave Libra and go into Scorpio. So the jury's still out as far as I'm concerned. There are 11 clear cusps, but I do find some questions between the Libra Scorpio cusp. I've observed them, and you are free to do your own observation and your own analysis. So a lot of people are confused, and almost all of them are confused because of the newspaper. The newspaper has to print a date when the sun goes from Gemini into Cancer. And you can't print a date, because some years it goes into it on a different date. Some a different hour, different minute, sometimes a different date. Sometimes October 23rd is Libra. Sometimes it's Scorpio. Because you have to look finer, closer at the mathematics of it. So when people say, I'm born on the cusp, they don't know. And I go, give me your birth time, and I'll tell you exactly what time the sun changed from one to the other, and now we know for sure. And then people will say to me, I'm born on the cusp, but I feel much more like a Libra. I don't care what they feel like. That's what I found. You're either one or you're the other. And that's mathematical. Now, what they get confused with is sometimes they're a Libra and they got 3 planets in Scorpio, or they're a Scorpio and they got 3 planets in Libra, but they don't know this. So they think they're born on a cusp. Now, cusp definitely work with houses. There ain't no doubt about it. That if your planet is, let me show you on the zodiac. You can see how right now, you see how Venus is 2948 of Aquarius? And you see how that cusp is 059? So it's really, really close. That Venus will act as if it is a 7th house Venus and an 8th house. The cusp work with houses. So a planet like this in the middle of the 10th house is clearly 10th house. But a planet that's near this line, near the line where the planet's sign hits the house cusp, those share the natures of each sign. So if you're 4 or 5 degrees from the next sign, if your planet is in a sign, but it's 4 or 5 degrees from the next house, it will definitely act and start picking up qualities of the next house. Because the house is, where is that energy being expressed? Let's take a minute there and think. A planet is an energy. A planet that's in a sign is the type of energy. You're driving a car, you're driving a Chevy, you're driving a Ford, black or white. But a planet in a house is, where is that car going? The houses are your personality, your money, your value, your mind, your heart. So the house is, where is that energy being expressed in your life? And that's why houses have cusps and signs don't. And I'm probably wrong about Libra Scorpio, but I've been watching it for a long time, and I'm going to keep watching it. Plus, I have noticed this. Libra is a relatively weak sign compared to Scorpio. That's one of the reasons I think it's possible. I don't know. But you see, this is the habit you want to get into. You don't want to be forced. Well, maybe those days are a wobble in the zodiac. That's a good point there, Elkia. I have no idea. I'm busy wobbling my way through the zodiac as I live. No, if you watch the zodiac clearly, people will tell you I'm on the cusp. And if you get their birth certificate or you get their Holy Bible and you get the minute that it changed and you tell them, you will find out that they are one or they're the other. Now, there are people that are born on the cusp. There are people that are born at noon. There are people that are born 0 degrees of a sign. And you're just going to have to investigate throughout their life. Do they seem more like this or that? Can it be assigned to other planets and other signs. What is it? What is the reason? Astrology is not always easy. As a matter of fact, it's always really hard. Don't you think? I think it is. So anyhow, what we're talking about now is when you look at the 12 sign switches, and it's why one of the reasons I really like this book. This book really helps you to see how an Aries becomes a Taurus. A Taurus becomes a Gemini. And I don't mean like a frog changing. I talk about this theoretically. So the Aries Taurus cusp is dramatically different because one's so energetic and one's so passive. One's so dynamic and one's so laid back. So that's a real intriguing way to look at that. You can even look at the ages and see the difference in the 2,000-year ages. You can look at the Pluto placements through those chunks of time. And then you're going along through Taurus, all of a sudden there's a Gemini. You couldn't be more drastic. And that's two of the signs that I've always felt you would never see be married, but they're always married. Tauruses are always marrying Geminis. I see it all the time. And that's not a matter, you got to get this clear. That's not a matter of compatibility. That's a matter of complementary. Okay? They're complementary. The Taurus has what the Gemini doesn't, and vice versa. Now, they might argue a bit, and the Taurus says, don't ever move my chair. But the Gemini is, oh, please keep moving the chair. You know, my mother, the Gemini, I'd come home at night. I didn't know where the furniture would be. Turn the light on, because I know before I tripped. My dad is the Capricorn. Oh, damn it, why'd you change the what'd you change the living room for you again? She gets bored with it. Taurus doesn't get bored with it. To the Taurus is comfort, security. Okay, then go on down through the zodiac. It's just a beautiful trip to see how this happens. My Gemini sister and Taurus brother-in-law argue always, and they love each other tons. Okay, but when I get a Gemini and Taurus in my office, I have to tell them things that they can't tell each other. I tell the Gemini, look, don't move his boots. He doesn't want the boots moved. This is where the boots go. Then I get the Taurus and say, look, once a month you got to get off your chair and go outside. This Gemini's bored to death. This is Archie Bunker and Edith. She's bored to death. Take her somewhere. Do something. Taurus goes, what for? I don't know what for. But you see this really deserves a book, to these just the 12 differences. So then you're going through the Gemini stuff, and I've been thinking a lot about the first 4 signs lately, and Liza and I have given a lot of thought about the first 4 signs when we wrote this book. Now you're going through Gemini, all of a sudden you're Cancer. Okay, the Gemini is over the fence. Ooh, what's neat? What's neat? Blah, 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 what's neat? What's there? What's blah, blah, blah. And the Cancer is, shh, what about my feelings? What about my feelings? You're going into all these places that are scary, and I could get hurt there. Cancer's right. Cancer's no one else has ever been in the water before. Cancer goes into the water. They come up and they go, man, is that deep? That's a scary place. And they should be. So you've got that Gemini Cancer cusp that's so incredibly different. One is so cerebral and one is so emotional. You can go on forever with that. But the first 4 signs are really, really critical because they parallel the first 4 elements. Fire, earth, air, water. Now you start around again and you go into the fifth sign and you come out of Cancer and you go into Leo. And Cancer is all about making sure that I'm okay, making sure the babies are okay, everybody's fed, family's okay. And the Leo's coming out like, I'm all right. Hey, I'm all right. Hey, what's the story? I'm all right. So you got this cockiness versus this caution. And one feeds into the other. That makes sense. So the Leo is all about the teenager. The Leo is all about gaining confidence by acting cocky. You talking to me? Are you talking to me? I love that Robert De Niro line. You ain't talking to me. But that's how the soul gains confidence. So now you got this fifth sign out of six. And the first six are all about the self. And the last six are about the self plus others. I'm giving you a breakdown what's in this book. So now we get the shift at that cusp between Leo and Virgo. Now I see people like you'll remember our friend Karen DeBear used to be on this show, did a lot of work with healing. She had everything in Leo or in Virgo. And she had a toil with it, but she was doing pretty well. I haven't seen her in a couple of years now. But she had the Leo conflicting with the Virgo. The Leo wants to go on stage, and the Virgo, shut up, get off stage. Let's do your work. Just do your work. Do your work real well. Don't worry about it. And the Leo is, quit being so uptight. Sit down and let me just show you what I know. So she finally learned. I worked with her a lot. She finally learned to let both go. Because I told her that your Leo and your Virgo are going to be on the same stage at the same time, and there's nothing you can do about it. They're going to be. You just got to teach them to get along. So the Virgo mumbles to itself, oh, geez, I got to put up with this. And the Leo thinks that the Virgo is so uptight, and it's saying the same thing. It's because the contrast is so great at these points. And I've seen plenty of people recently that have a lot of Leo and Virgo, and they get along pretty well. But when it comes down to a fight, the sun sign will win. What you really are in your sun sign will win. So we have a really massive thing going on with the first six signs, because now that you've gone into Virgo, Virgo is all about, I don't care what all of you say, we've got to get it together. Why? Because we're going to go meet people. Let me get this on your screen. And this is in the book. This is the basis of the book. This is the basis of the 10-week class that I put out here on Astrology Unplugged. I put a 10-week course out here on basic astrology. It's all based on this graphic, based on this book. So you see the first six signs are Aries through Virgo. Then the next six signs are all based on we, me, we. I learned by staying to myself. I learned from my own experiences. I learned from being with others. The zodiac's beautifully expressed in this way, which is one reason we call it exquisite, because it just is. So, We just talked about the contrast between the Leo and the Virgo. We talked about the contrast with all the others. Now we come into a huge contrast. Once again, it's because we're going into a cardinal sign. Now we're talking about the Virgo who's responsible for fixing everything. Let's put the whole self together. We're put together, we did it right. Now, Cinderella has to go to the ball. She's got to come out and meet people. Now, have you ever met a Libra person in your life that wasn't concerned about being socially accepted? No, unless there's something really strange in your chart. It's all about being socially accepted. Do you think the Virgos are? No, they want to be back in their workshop, putting in extra hours, shining something up, making it better. That's just what they do. They're not made for social situations in general, like Libra is. So when you see planets along that cusp, the Libra Scorpio or the Libra Virgo cusp, which happened to us in 1972. In 1972, Pluto crossed out of Virgo and went into Libra. Look what happened to unisex. Look what happened to people relationships. Everything changed. We became Pluto sex Libra society. People, you saw all these marvelous books come out about sexual experience and sexual studies. When the Virgo period before, nobody talked about that stuff. Nobody talked about that stuff. Shh. So you see the tremendous contrast between the Virgo and the Libra cusp, that cusp. All right, now we see here this cusp is a very interesting cusp because you remember this is the cusp where I'm not really sure there's a cusp there. It's the one exception that I'm not sure. In other words, I've seen people whose sun signs have been here and they really act like both signs. But I got to take into account what planets did I have in both signs. You'll remember Johnny Carson was born with his sun right on this cusp. Now, when you looked at him, he certainly appeared very Libran, very well dressed, charming, very talkative, conversationalist, but you also could sense Scorpio in here. You could sense the intense Scorpio in there. So this cusp here is one of the weakest cusps in the zodiac in terms of the two signs are more alike. I would say this cusp is similar to this one that we're talking about because these two signs are quite alike. They're quite different too. These are quite different and they're quite alike. But both of these signs are obsessed with relationships, just obsessed. Okay. Then we go up to this one. This is a real intriguing one because this is the heat in the kitchen and this is Funland. This is the heat in the kitchen and this is Disneyland. And there's a great contrast between these two. And that's what happened in 2005 when Pluto left Scorpio and went into Sag in 2000. I'm sorry. That's not correct. 1995. 1995 when Pluto left Scorpio and went into Sagittarius. So we saw the lightheartedness of Sag come out of the intensity of Scorpio. Then we saw the one we're in now. We saw the 2007. We saw Pluto crossing here. We saw the Sag go into Capricorn. We saw the bills came due. All these cards that you filled out for credit cards, they came due. A lot of things came due. The society, if I remember correctly, we went through a tremendous repression, recession. Thank you, dear. I get a word wrong now and then. She's my auto thesaurus fixer. So that's thank you very much. That's exactly right. The recession, and we went into Capricorn, and there's great contrast here. I don't know if there's any greater contrast in the zodiac than Sag and Capricorn. And I'll tell you what, Sag pisses off Capricorns. If you look around yourself, Capricorns do not deal easily with Sagittarians. They just don't because they're so serious and the sign is so light. A little bit of jealousy there, I think. But they're both got another side, of course. And Sag is a very big sign, thinking about society, thinking about the world politics, etc. So we saw what happened to the world when Pluto crossed these two in 2007 and 2008. And I don't have to tell you what Pluto did 2008, 2009, 2010, all the way till now. And one reason, several other reasons that made this worse, was Pluto was with Saturn. They traveled together through Capricorn. And then we discovered Eris over here, and Eris started squaring Pluto. So we got triple, quadruple taste of Capricorn while Pluto was in Capricorn. And I was starting to wonder, and I told you about this, how much can the body take? How much can the collective body take on the operating table? Well, this is corrupt. We got to fix this, got to fix that. Well, how much can it take? I think it was very evidenced by what happened with COVID. Remember those scenes? We're dying for more doctors. We're dying for more nurses. Put a cooler outside. I mean, that was scary stuff. Intriguing. So now where we're getting to is this. Now what we're getting to is this. Pluto, around March 21st, is going to go into Aquarius. It's going to stay there a couple months and come back into Capricorn, then go back in. And that's going to be the scary time when it goes back in. That's when it pulls the curtain finally on its time in Capricorn. So when we get into Aquarius, what are we going to expect? Well, what we're going to hope for is we're going to hope for people starting to learn to get along, learn grassroots campaigns, learn that we're better off in the collective than we are trying to do things individually. And this is when I'm going to definitely enlist Liza to talk about what she thinks is going to happen. Because in 2005, we did this, and we talked about science, economics, government, law. We talked about what we're going to see in those situations, and it was pretty darn accurate. So as Pluto goes into Aquarius, we're going to see some unusual things. We're going to see tremendous focus on robots. I think we're going to see tremendous focus on UFOs. We're going to see phenomenal focus on science. Aquarian things. Aquarius is about being aloof and being intellectual, being removed from all the emotional experience. What's that tell you? Hopefully that we don't get too robotic. Aquarius is also that wonderful, wonderful sign that's very honest. Yes, Marcia. It's about trying to solve things scientifically, but it's also about trying to use the higher mind. Remember, Aquarius is about, let's get away from all this codependency. This is the least codependent sign that there is. Coming out of the two signs, they're most codependent. Capricorn, Cancer. Aquarius, you find somebody living on an island and you ask them their sign, they're going to tell you it's Aquarius because they're just not worried about it. Of course, I'm joking, but in general, that's the rest of the chart shows that Aquarians are very good on their own. They're geniuses. They're really smart, way ahead of their time. So we're going to see both things happening. We're going to see both things happening. And I also think, since it's in Aquarius, we're going to see like two heavyweight boxers. We're going to see Saturn and Uranus going at it. That's a big statement. One's the father of the other. Saturn, conservative, lock it down, make sure. Uranus, open it up, be wild, be aggressive, have faith in yourself, open it up, open your mind, think, try things. Try things, don't try things. Try things, don't try things. These forces are going to really, as Erica says, hopefully we'll want to eat similar things. Oh, that was just nasty. Well, by God, we better eat similar things. What is this we came up with, Pluto and Taurus? This artificial meat? If that ain't Pluto and Taurus, I don't know. Let's open the phone lines up. Let's open the phone lines up to you, goofballs. And let's see what you got to say. Come on, Eric. What do you got to say?
Well, Claudia was saying, that we're going to be having lunch with the aliens. So I said, hopefully we like to eat the same things.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But what I want to ask you was, Pluto's going to go into Aquarius in March, but then in June it's going to go retrograde again, back into Capricorn.
That's very common.
Until January. So what are we going to do then?
That's
We're
no
be
big.
crazy.
That's no big deal. That's very common. Very common that planets do that, because the big planets go forward for 7 months, backward for 5 months, forward for 7, backward for 5. It's not that we're going to freak out when he goes back into Capricorn. What do you think's going to happen? Let me
I
open.
think it'll be like a tease.
Oh, no. It's not going to be like
here we are getting started. Oh no, let's talk about that again.
Yeah, but you
Let's
see, you
sure.
gotta ignore the tendency to think that when Pluto gets to Aquarius, we're all gonna be okay. That's not the way to think about this.
Well, didn't it already go into Aquarius
No.
just for a little while?
No.
Oh, that was Saturn. That was Saturn.
That's
I'm
right.
sorry.
It's going in March. Now, what do you think is going to happen? When the planet goes into Aquarius, we're going to start getting the taste of that Aquarian energy. The collective is going to dip its mind, dip its collective psyche into those Aquarian energies, and it's going to come back and say, well, we still got to deal with this stuff. That's what's going to happen during its period when it retrogrades back into Capricorn. We're going to say, oh, I've got a taste of what's coming now. I got a taste of it. But what I think happens during those periods is we get more emphasis upon us to get the job done. Let's get this done. There's no more goofing around. I mean, can you think of a place in the zodiac that's more serious? I mean, Scorpio has its serious points, but I think the Capricorn Aquarius is really a serious point because it's about the world. It's about the world getting along. I think you got some good points, but then you'll notice, and this was shocking to us, once it gets on its way, a couple of years, you'll notice those changes start to happen. In other words, when 05, 06, 07 came out, and Liza and I started to mumble about maybe the US is going to fall apart, people were ready to kill us. How they feel now when you say it? commonplace. See, that's what happened. Elke raised her hand and then her face disappeared. I don't know how she did that one.
She's here. No, I'm here.
I don't see your face. Oh, there you are, Sarah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Elke.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is to do with the climate too, with climate change. Pluto in Aquarius is gonna make us aware of, you know, what we have to do, that we actually have to work together on this.
Right.
I think the monkey wrench is Mr. Putin, Mr. Libra, who really like has all these planets in Libra. And I mean, you said that they're worried about what others think. I mean, he's the antithesis of,
And he's got Pluto sitting on his midheaven
well,
in
yeah,
his natal chart.
yeah, well,
He
yeah.
wants he
So
wants
there could be like a nasty surprise coming from there. And I mean, he's a master strategist, you know, like he's a chess player, but
where do all the great chess players come from?
Russia.
You're damn right. Okay, somebody else had their hand up. Was saying that's very good, Elke. Was it Claudia saying something? Somebody was saying something. It's not
Rachel
Huh?
was saying,
Yeah,
Rachel was saying something.
Rachel was saying something, and let me go back through the chat messages. She said Mars will be at 21, Pluto will be semi-sextile to Saturn. March 21st, Pluto will be semi-sextile to Saturn. Okay, that's going to be more of the same. It's going to be more of the same. I'm not going to belittle a semi-sextile, which is a 30-degree aspect, but it's going to be the same taste that we've had for years. I mean, if you look at the astrologers, they're not talking about what's going on as Pluto Eris like I am. They've been saying everything is Pluto Saturn. And I don't agree. Now, Mr. Tarnas wrote a phenomenal chapter about Pluto mixing with Saturn. A phenomenal long chapter about all through history how Pluto and Saturn came together during 9/11, came together during the Holocaust. He has a lot of really good points. And I sent him a message about this. I said, it's not Pluto Saturn, Mr. Tarnas. It's Pluto Eris. And he said to me, more or less, I think you're incorrect. I think you're kind of jumping the gun. I don't think so. And because one of his proteges wrote the book on Eris. Kier, what's his name, Marcia? Kier.
Like Grace or something?
Chiron LaGrace, right. And I told Mr. Tarnas that I think that is wrong. That's right. Chiron LaGrace. Well, he wrote an excellent, he's one of the students of Mr. Tarnas. But I think you're going to see, I don't know what it is. And I've been talking to Liza about this a long time. Liza's a real big defender of Mr. Tarnas. And I've been saying to her for a while, there's something that he's not talking about. He's not talking about Pluto Eris for some reason. I don't know what it is. A lot of people look to him. He's got to be careful what he says. Not like me. I got a couple people. Just a couple people I got to keep happy. But anyhow, I think you're going to see Tarnas talking about Pluto Eris because it's so obvious. Okay, other questions, other statements? What's going on in Southern California there, Susan? We'll get to Marcia next. Oh, she drew us a cat.
Oh,
That's a calico? That's a nice cat. I'm gonna get you unmuted. Oh, and there's her dog. I gotta get you unmuted, dear.
There we go. Okay.
Well, you
Yep, this
just
is the kitty, and this
every
is
time I'm talking to you, you're busy working and coloring and magnificent.
well, you know, if I don't do something with my hands, my brain will just go off, you know, in some other
No,
direction.
it's Sagittarius, Moon in Gemini. I
Yeah.
understand that. They're very nice. That looks beautiful. Marcia, but go ahead, unmute yourself. Everybody wants to talk. Unmute yourself.
So with this this energy changing,
Right.
not going to change fast, basically, is what you're saying.
No,
And we're
no,
still going to have a lot of the difficult energies that we've had.
of course.
And so it's going to bounce back and forth for a little while. And it's going
That's
to be
right.
it's going to be bits and pieces of way the energy changes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're going to still have a lot of hardship.
Well, take a look. Take a look between 1995 and 2008, when Pluto was dancing around in Sagittarius. It wasn't all picnic. There was still hardship all over the place. So everything's relative. It's relative. It's just that when it got into Capricorn, it was like, boom. Okay, we're not escaping it this time.
Now, do you think some of that is that the consciousness is not ready to change yet? The universal
Oh, of
consciousness.
course. Of
Yeah.
course it's that. And it's we're a cancer country. A cancer country does not, we do not, Americans do not collectively want to get too far out with our psyches. It scares us. We're primarily wanting to survive and be okay. That's our reaction.
And it's turning more inwards in so many situations
That's
now.
right. You look at some of these Scandinavian countries that are Aquarian and that are Sagittarians, they let it fly.
Right.
They're not afraid of their mind. They're not afraid of letting somebody out of jail.
Mhm.
So the USA has a tough chart, but in general, you're going to still have Eris sitting in the middle of Aries. It's going to take 20 more years. Okay? That's not going to be a picnic. We still have all the things that we've uncovered. Like I said, the patient is on the table. He's been cut open. How many cuts can he take? It's just not simple. But you're correct that the general mood, the general psyche will start moving more towards Aquarius. You will see people surprise you. Hey, let's get together and solve this in a group way instead of, hey, my little group, my tiny group here. That's what we're looking for. And that's in the long run. What I'm hoping Liza will tell us. In the long run, as we see 2023 go towards 2043, I'm hoping her analysis will start to show us that the Aquarian psyche is going to start overcoming the other, cautious. Like I said, Aquarius is Saturn and Aquarius, Saturn and Uranus. So we'll be interested to see what she says. Yes, Susan.
I was just wondering, when it moves into Aquarius, I'm thinking more legislation that is more Aquarian. And then when
legislation is Capricorn.
I know, but then it's going to
Bulls.
back into Capricorn.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that might even be an economic correction. Because if when it moves into Aquarius, laws are passed that spend more money for the general good, and then all it takes is one change of election, and then there's a lot of contraction again.
No, I think you got
before it moves forward.
I think you got some very good points to keep in mind. Yes, as we watch it, that's what's so good about astrology. Let these ideas come up and tickle you. Let them come up and roam around your brain for a few weeks, and then see what happens. Because when you start to see the reality of human beings living with The reality of human beings living with astrology is completely different than astrology.
Right.
You know, it is. But I think you get some very good points. And I think they're the kind of things that we need to talk about and discuss. And the reason I did tonight is I can see this coming. I want us to be doing a lot of talk about Pluto and Aquarius, but I want to warn everybody because I can see it already. A lot of people think it's going to be a panacea. It's not. Who's next? Go ahead. Come on, Claudia.
We're just
Being
tired,
really-
Rick. That's why we want a panacea, you know, we want a break or something, you know?
Yeah,
See the Taurus? The Taurus just wants us all to be.
yeah.
Hey, let's just have a break, get a sandwich, and sit back. Give me a lemonade. Can
I
we just
agree.
relax and have a break?
Although the fixed signs are getting a turn now.
Hello.
The cardinal signs, we all owe you a big hug. And now we're gonna usher in a different time for
So
the
what do you
fixed
think
signs.
Pluto's going to do? What's it going to do with the fixed signs?
It's gonna
Pluto-
bring them.
Pluto's nature is fixed.
Yeah. I think it's, I mean, it's obviously gonna change them deeply. It's gonna bring them their power one way or another.
Rachel,
You know.
calm down, Rachel. Okay, if fixed signs are all about concentrating, fixing, organizing, what do you do when all the stuff's on the table? Not the generating to get the stuff there, not the distributing, but stuff's on the table. Okay. What do you think Pluto's going to do? We're going to come up, I'll guarantee you we're up for major atomic discoveries,
Mhm.
major quark stuff, quantum stuff. It's going to be unbelievable. That's one
Mhm.
reason that Edison's chart or Einstein's chart is so phenomenal is his Uranus and Taurus.
Mm.
He was living down at the atomic level. So we're going to see a lot of scientific, fabulous stuff. I'm hoping we see a cure for cancer.
Mm. Mm.
I don't know, but I do know that legal profession, I don't think we can hope on very much for the legal profession.
Maybe we'll see a cure for hunger.
That
we
that
wanna
would
get-
be good.
If we
But
want,
I just picked on John. We gotta give him a chance to
I'm
finish.
sorry.
That's okay, honey. Come
Legal,
on, John.
legal profession needs a dose of Eris.
Ooh,
Yeah.
you mean fairness? Oh my God. What do you consider a dose?
Mhm.
A big dose.
A big dose. Yes. Was it Elkie? Go ahead, dear.
Well, I just want to make a comment. You know, I had this thought that when they were talking about the chat GPT, I don't know if you've heard about it, that well, okay, so it's a bot, it's an AI bot that they've created and it's massive. And so it's called chat GPT, and that thing is so powerful. Like you ask it a question and it just scans the internet and it comes up with answers, and it's really concerning because the kids won't have to go to school anymore because they're just going to type in the answers and this thing writes it. And as a university professor has asked it a question, and it came up with a paper, and he graded it at a master's level at a B. And so I had this horrifying thought that this thing is just going to read all about medicine and astrology, and it's going to put it all together. And if it gets a hold of us, our birth times, we're all done. They'll know everything about us. And it's like, oh my God.
Oh my
you know?
God. I don't know. Well, I'm moving to Canada. I know that. Full moon
It's here
again.
too. Those
Well,
things.
we're all concerned with the same thing with Pluto going into Aquarius. This is a real concern of too much robots.
Yep, AI
We
power.
know there's too much AI. There's no doubt about it. Liza, I'm not ignoring you, dear. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I could add some things.
Well, come on over here where that camera is, and let's hear from the queen of the house.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Well, she is.
Well, you know,
She
I
is.
thought I was just gonna sit on the couch passively, and I was doing these things, and I hear him out, just almost unconsciously say, "Oh, we're gonna have Liza talk about Aquarius." And,
You
it's
knew
like,
that was
it's like,
coming.
no, I didn't.
Yeah, you
And it's
did.
like, oh shoot, I better write something down.
Well, we did it in 05. We're bound to do it. Honey, you got several years yet.
Yeah, okay, well, it was a really good discussion, and you all brought up subjects that I was thinking about, so I'll try not to talk about those, but I wanted
See,
to.
she's already working. See, she's already got notes.
I do.
Was I right or what?
Well, the one thing that Rick always says about Aquarius, which I feel is a really good perception, and which I think kind of informs the whole discussion about maybe the positive side of Aquarius, is he always talks about how Aquarians connect the dots and they understand the implications of everything. And that's true for me as an Aquarian. And I bet it is for a lot of all you other Aquarians out there. But I think that mindset of the sign of Aquarius is really going to inform everything that we've all been talking about in relation to Aquarius. I think because Aquarius is going to realize finally that unless we start taking care of our planet and the environment, we're really in bad shape. And so Aquarians, the Aquarian zeitgeist or whatever is going to say, well, we really do need to start working together to try to make the planet better. And the Aquarian mindset is going to hopefully say, well, about this technology or this genetic procedure we have now, or these things about robots, all of these things that the Aquarian mind is going to make more possible. We're going to have to think about the implications of all of that and be really, really safe and careful about it.
Instead of looking at the bottom line, where's the profit?
Absolutely.
That's the
Absolutely.
problem right there.
I think that there are certainly a lot of social implications. I think that you guys have all talked about, but I think that there's really an opportunity for us to, again, around the environment, but about all kinds of things, politics and how we structure society and all of that stuff. There's going to be a lot more of a push toward doing things as a community and collaborating on things as equals rather than as, top down. There are certain people with power and certain of us who are powerless. Hopefully there's going to be more of an emphasis on us working together with that. And I'm hoping that we start to see some of that with the upcoming elections, campaigns and elections. That's going to be a big part of what I'm going to be concerned about. I think we're going to be, and we're starting to see it already, but more, I guess I'm talking about a lot more of the positive things than the negative, but everything has a shadow side. But more acceptance and about people's gender and sexual orientation and race and religion and other differences, things that we should have been appreciating and valuing all along. But
Aquarians are very tolerant.
Yeah. So I think that there's going to be a lot more of that energy. And I think in a lot of ways, we're kind of getting over all of that stuff now. We're starting to, which is really great. I think that there's going to be a lot more along those lines, a lot more experimentation there is this already with different types of family structures, like it's not so much just
Right.
the family you were born into anymore. We're
Right.
creating families, among friends and among people that we have become close to online, for goodness sake. And I've been amazed at how seamless that has been for me. I never thought I could really get to know anybody or be that close to anybody online, but that has certainly been the case. The Aquarians really are interested in ecology and nature and saving the planet. And I'm hoping that there's much more of an understanding about the Earth as an entity that actually has consciousness and soul, and that we can connect with the Earth on that basis. You talked before about all the advances in technology regarding medicine and genetic research, communications, outer space. Let's see, what else did I come up? Oh, I wanted to say that you were talking about Richard Tarnas earlier, and he did make the point that if you haven't read Passion of the Western Mind, I think that Rick was talking about with John earlier, it's like a book that Richard Tarnas wrote was supposed to be an introduction to cosmos and psyche, and ended up being a really wonderful big fat book that he traces the whole history of Western thought. And he said that toward the end, he has a lot of things to say about the place that we find ourselves in human history right now, and that the Western world has really painted ourselves into a corner intellectually, because we've just put so much emphasis on reason and what we consider to be hard science. And he talks about the fallacy of even thinking that there's hard science. But I think that's one of the dangers of Aquarius is, as you talked about, over intellectualizing ourselves and painting ourselves into a corner with that, and really leaving ourselves just bereft of, any sense of, the spiritual or wonder, mystery in the world, and thinking we know everything, and if not, our minds will figure it out. So I think we have to be really careful of that. As we enter the Aquarian age.
And that's true, because that's one of the big problems with Aquarian people, is they can get very stubborn mentally. They don't want to listen to anybody else, and that can really backfire. But I really like what you said about them being tolerant, because they really are. They really know what friendship means. A lot of really good qualities. So that's the other thing I wanted to say. I mean, that Aquarius is environment. You talk Aquarians, that's what they're into. They're obsessed with the environment. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, if you took a survey, you would find that Aquarians are the people that recycle the most, I bet.
Oh, sure. What you doing with that bottle cap?
Yeah, I'm telling, no, that goes in the recycling. Not the other can, that's the recycling. He's really good about that, though. I think that there's the possibility for astrology becoming much more part of the general, what do I want to say, more accepted and more understood as a valid practice, and something that adds dimension and value to our understanding of each other.
Well, we've got to calm down, Erica, because this is for a later show, honey. She's talking about half human, half alien. Okay, we're not. Let's take one thing at a time. Okay.
That'll be the new biracial.
Yeah, maybe.
100 years from now or something.
Oh God, it's time to end the show.
One more thing.
If they're willing to mix with us stupid earthlings.
I don't know how many of you read science fiction, but if you want me to recommend some really good authors, and I guess you guys may have some too, but I think science fiction is very Aquarian and can help all of us kind of ease our way into the future, because some of the writing that has been done over the years is phenomenal and has really foreseeing a lot of things that we're going through already. So thanks for listening to me. Thank you.
Like watching 170 episodes of The Walking Dead. Oh my God.
I'll,
Oh, that was something. Hey, I told you she was smart.
I'll say one thing, one author I'll say before he
Stanley
shuts me.
Robinson.
Kim Stanley
Stanley
Robinson. Marcia. Yes. Okay. Thank you,
I
guys.
told you she was good.
Uh,
We'll see you next week, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Liza.
Good night, everybody.
Thank
Love
you.
you all.
I love you
Love you
too.
all.